Hello viewers, Kubiando, Kith and Kin, I'm SB and welcome back to I Was A Teenage Exocolonist, where today I'm trying to read the developer's mind. Doing my level best to figure out whether I think this developer would make negotiation with Noctilucent more difficult after destroying the cloning facility, whether they think that someone arguing from a position of weakness, like the idea of someone arguing from a position of increased weakness, overtakes the idea of someone arguing from a position of increased spite. And you know, it's probably not a useful exercise, right? There's no way to know this. We're just gonna have to pick a thing and do it. So I'm going to maybe err on the side of keeping people in the colony alive and just go ahead and give the device to Rhett. Out of curiosity, on the notice board, do we have a sense of... Okay, colony security rating 100% green, very strong. I wish that we had a number there instead of a percentage because we've been getting all these plus ones. I don't know. I guess let's just go and say the thing and give him the thing, right? We're probably going to be okay either way though. What 100% means is that we're probably going to be okay either way. We can probably just hold them back. I'm still going to give it to him. Let's see how this goes. Yeah. Oh, boy. I know how to access the array. I have the payload. Is this going to kill them? Nope. She balks. She's backing out. I don't want to kill the gardeners. I just want to be able to live in harmony with the gardeners. I don't trust anyone on any side of this conflict. All right, let's go do something. Let's go. Do we go work at the bar in the hopes of triggering more events that are interesting, or do we like push stats? It doesn't feel super useful. I think like all the stats that we need, I feel like we have already. And there's rarely a point where you need more than 80 points of a thing. Yeah, I'm just gonna, let's just work in the cafe some more. Okay, so this one we saw. It would be really cool if we could do something about disentange, but also, you know, there's something to be said for the game not presenting everything as a problem that you personally can solve. So this is going to end up being a 7. This is going to end up being an 8. So we can throw this at the end here. And get ourselves, at the very least, a little straight going. Yeah, a super goal. I'll take a super goal. That seems fine. Dad's Love is such a good card. 30 kudos. Yes. Yes, indeed. All right, here we are in the glow. Should I go out? I think I'm going to go out. We don't want to do the transcendence thing, obviously, but I'm wondering if I will be able to have a conversation out there that would be meaningful. There's definitely an encounter you get with, at the very least, with Sim out there, right? And we haven't been out in glow at all. It'd be good to pick up some objects. Let's just make sure that we've given gifts to everybody who's actually out. We do get bravery for this. It's gonna give us something of use. Alright, a wumph of something large in the distance. It's just a Dorbs moth. Come on, calm down, you big baby. I get it. Yeah, Sim's down there. We'll just go have a chat with our buddy. We don't need to do any of these events, really, but I do want to collect objects, because we're a little low on stuff. I wonder if having the faceless event interaction is ever going to be useful. I suppose you would remember it from a past life if it were necessary, right? What is this? There's a manticore in here. Some sort of dog-like creature's gotten trapped in the machinery. Well, we release it, obviously. You try to come near, but it bites at you ferociously, nearly taking your hand off. You don't see a way you can safely free it. So you watch it for a moment. The trapped eye beast is gone. Yep, because we fell asleep. A massive shadow drifts into the lumberyard, coming between you and the creature. Yep. It's weird. It's weird out here at this time of year. This is the season of strange things. But strange things that we've all seen before. So, let's keep moving. A terrified manticore. Just keep my light on it. Yep, okay, I thought so. We're gonna gain an opportunity to gain some more free bravery. So yeah, there's sort of just like the weird umbral presence of this faceless that is or is not really here. Hey there, Sim. I totally saw you there with my perception of 100. It's my favorite time of year. I get the sense that humans are afraid of it. That is, things do tend to attack us. Close the time of healing. The attacks are not natural, as you may have guessed. Okay, having had him tell us this may be actually valuable. Maybe we're just gonna have to reveal that we know Sim, Tourette. I don't know. A lot comes down to what happens during the attack this year, I think. Is Noctilucent the one attacking me or attacking us? Okay, repelling you does fall under their domain. Doesn't need to be this way. Yeah, okay. And then he tells me to fuck off. And we have another conversation about my ability to see the future/past. So I can still change the future. Yes, but that's not what makes you special. Everybody changes the future, dummy. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. And then, yeah, I wouldn't think that having this interaction would necessarily be valuable, but also take some photographs. I think I'm just going to go back, maybe? Because apparently we can't even have the big interaction. Yeah, alright, just go home. I was curious whether or not the second yellow exclamation point would pop in its place. Okay, so that was not really valuable. Okay. Well, let's see how this goes. Sim steps out of the tree line, stands beside Noctilucent. Noctilucent's like, hey, listen, this asshole thinks I should come talk to you, so I've come to offer an alternative to your removal, your unconditional surrender. Humanity will cease reproduction, cease expansion, and in return be allowed to live out your remaining lifespans within the bounds of your walls. Let's see how the negotiation goes. Mars steps forward, and she beckons you forward, too. This is the moment you've been trying to make happen. Solwyn, there's no way people are going to accept never having children, she says. I mean, we'll just go extinct. Can't you make them give us a better deal? Make them? Can I make them? No. You look down at Noctilucent, a figure of malevolent patience across the firebreak. This might be the only chance you get, but you can try. The Overseer did not mention that the slow extinction of humanity was part of their deal. That's true. He suggested that we would be allowed to, basically live on the land that we've already claimed for as long as we wanted. I'm gonna ask for a better deal instead of telling the Overseer to screw off. That seems like not the outcome we're looking for. The other colonists would never accept something as drastic as forced sterilization. You couldn't even ask them to make that choice. Yeah, okay, listen, you gotta meet us a little more halfway than that, buddy. Noctilucent's patience is running out. Behind them, the amassed animal army lies in wait. The offer is already generous, they say. Do you think I consulted with the venomous Slapfingers when they overhunted the abyssal driftworms? Or the creeping crossthorn vine when it choked the southern shoreline? No! I did what was needed to restore balance, as my gardener directive entails. Okay, you might need to update your definition of balance, though, because, like, it was formed before we were here? Sam lays his hand on Noctilucent's arm. The humans can be reasoned with, he says firmly. Just hear them out, please. What do you propose, Sullen? Well, we must be allowed to reproduce, not really optional. Okay, a 115. A 115 we can do. So, obviously this is pretty compelling right now. Am I just doing this thing? 21 to start? I mean, it's fine. Okay, it's all yellow from here. Can we construct ourselves a straight? I mean, it's pretty easy to go like 6, 7. Yeah, there's no really doing any better than this. It does feel a little bit like a waste to play our cards that refer to gems when we don't have any gems. You know what? Let's maybe soft pedal this just a little bit. We'll keep the better of the gem cards. And we'll just get the straight and the flush here. And okay, we did pull a gem, so it may actually matter. So this will be an 8, this will be an 8. I mean, it's pretty easy to go 9, 10. And then, I mean, if we just throw another 10 on the end of that, I feel like that's a pretty strong hand. Casual 71, no big deal. Really? 7 kudos? Where's this coming from? Like, diegetically, who produces the 7 kudos for me at this moment? Because I feel like if we've actually managed to convince him, we deserve a hell of a lot more than that, and otherwise we definitely don't deserve these 7. Maybe it's Mars sends them to us as a reward for trying. You are well spoken for a pest, Noctilucent concedes. However, is humanity even capable of considering the survival of all creatures over their own, even if it means accepting limitations? Listen, okay, we're willing to talk limitations. Although I might, want some specificity on all of that. This is a little solid. This feels pretty solid, right? Yeah, the flush comes through nice and strong. We get a good high value on the Vertumna group. Like almost 40 points in 3 cards. And then we have a red setup if we want one. So if we do like I was gonna try to aim for the flush here. Can I make a 10 happen somewhere? Like, I'm trying to figure out how I get a straight out of this. Shoot. Right, because the +3. I was just like not even thinking about the +3 there. Oh, right, but that makes a straight the 7 blank 9. Yeah, okay. 47. Now we only have to make a 32 work, and gosh. Feels like maybe we got there. I don't know. You argue that the success of the Vertumna project in leaving Earth shows that you've learned from your mistakes. Yeah, maybe humanity as a whole wasn't able to change trajectory back on Earth, but the colony self-selected those that could. Noctilucent listens to all this, looking a little more convinced. How can you tell? Have you learned anything from living here, though? Can you even coexist with this planet's native wildlife? Actually, I know quite a lot about this planet's native wildlife, thank you. And I learned it real fast. I'm sure given more time, you know. So 6, 6, 6, 8, 9, yeah, whatever, it's fine. It's a flush, it gets us some value. And then cards with gems are wild. This is such a good bonus for us. Do we want to do this thing? I wish I had a 7 to throw. Oh, I guess I do have a 7 to throw in this last slot. We can at least get a pair out of it. And then we got to make 49 here, but yeah, I didn't think it was going to be a big challenge. I mean, that's pretty good, right? That functions. Full house. There was probably a way to use that value as wild to do something cool. Noctilucent seems impressed. You've learned all that in 10 years. Well, it seems you aren't completely ignorant. Very well, they say, motioning for the army to stand down. You have argued your case and shown you can adapt to your surroundings. So the new terms are... The Overseer has agreed to grant you the humans... Let me try it again. The Overseer has agreed to grant the humans reproductive autonomy and limited expansion within your ecological niche. Additionally, the gardeners will ensure the continued health of this valley. Fertile soil, clean water, favorable animal migration patterns, and so on. Behind you, the colonists are beginning to carefully come forward to listen, murmuring in wonder. To be clear, Noctilucent continues, there will be no hunting, clearing, mining, or expanding beyond the valley. I can see that being a pretty tough sell for some of the people from the second ship. Humanity must live in harmony with nature rather than attempt to control it, Noctilucent adds. You will come to understand that you do not stand above the needs of the planet. Your mom comes up beside you and puts her hand on your shoulder. It's what we've wanted this whole time, she says in disbelief. When we left Earth, this is everything we dreamed we could be. But the Helios arrived on a military mission, carrying their burdens from Earth, and may resent any deal with the gardeners. This decision may not be popular, but it will give humanity a chance at peace. A true peace. I don't think we're going to be able to negotiate anything better out of him, certainly. We're not to expand beyond the valley. There are definitely some questions about, like, the long term that I really have no idea what the answers would be. But I think for the moment, this is the best we're going to get. We agree. The animals surrounding the colony begin to filter back into the trees, disappearing into the gloam of the late glow wilderness. Your knees buckle. You feel like you could sleep for a week. Yeah, that whole thing was probably very stressful, every moment of it. All around you, you hear people crying. In relief, maybe. Or fear. Tears pour down your face unbidden as the colony comes out to clamor around you. Many are smiling, some look numb and scared, some look angry. It hasn't sunk in yet, even as you're hoisted onto someone's shoulders and paraded back into the colony. You did it. You won. The party continues well into the night, and for a few days after that as well, until the suns rise above the horizon once again. It begins to set in that the colony will never again see another monster attack, or famine, or plague. Most people think this sounds pretty good. The others are soundly overruled for now. Yeah, like I said, I think there are some long-term questions that we need some clarity on. Maybe there can be future summits with the gardeners or something. As for you, now you can focus on just being your best self without worrying about day-to-day survival. That relief carries you through until quiet breaks on the new year, your 20th birthday. You turn 20 amidst a time of tremendous joy and unity in the colony. You aren't a teenager anymore, so you guess that makes you an adult, though in many ways you've already been one for a long time. You step out onto your balcony to greet the new day and start the rest of your life on Vertumna. Okay. Huh, I thought the game ended at the end of your 20... Am I already forgetting? Maybe it was the end of your 19th year. In any case, the end. I mean, listen, we did the thing I was trying to do. We actually did all the things I was trying to do, right? Basically all the things I was trying to do. Merchant. Ah, that's a bummer. I really want there... Maybe there is a... what do you call it? Like a musician or artist path that I just didn't end up on. I will say that, like, I don't know exactly how they're determining these. It's not necessarily based on your stats, right? I'm sure that what you choose to do during the run has some effect here, but the fact is, like, it's so hard to justify taking certain mechanical paths through the game. You have to waste so much time. In terms of acquiring more stats, you have to quote-unquote waste so much time. And I guess the problem there isn't really one with the game's design. It's more a problem with me and my brain, where it's just like, but if I could be increasing a number, why would I do a thing that doesn't increase a number? Right? What was actually the value of having all of those stats and all of those perks? There might be like a core philosophical problem here with the way I approach the game that makes certain outcomes kind of unavailable to me because I just can't not make the number go up. Yeah, that's a problem. All right. Anyway, you've always loved the smell of freshly nano-printed goods, the look of shelves overflowing with things for sale. You associate it with abundance, the comfort of knowing that everyone's needs will be well met. After years of lobbying from you and Mars, Kudos takes over as a full currency. People of all ages enjoy being able to buy things for themselves as a treat. The colony eventually outgrows its little supply depot, and you start your own commercial endeavor. So you can run a little grocery store if your rebellion is low, or a nanoprint shop if your rebellion is high. That's an interesting divide. As the depot's nanoprinters break down and are discarded, you collect the pieces for a few kudos here or there, then pay an engineer to painstakingly reassemble them into one mostly functional printer. The goods you create with it are always quirky. The raw materials you feed it, Vertumnan crystals and obsidian rather than aluminum or iron, produce oddly organic results. Brittle and beautiful, your household goods and appliances are more like unique art pieces, and sometimes they even work too. It is extremely not the outcome I was thinking about, but honestly it does make sense, and the idea of, like, having spent so much time in the depot, having sort of, like, made us fall in love with the process of nanoprinting does make sense. So if there is a musician path, and I'm sure there is, given that, you know, the photophoner is an activity that you can pursue, it probably requires you to actually play the photophoner a lot. I was kind of hoping that just playing music at the talent shows and stuff would be enough to demonstrate that interest to the game. I guess not. This is still interesting. Alright, but what about everybody else? I'm real curious about Lum, because I feel like Lum is going to be a persistent problem. But I guess we're starting with Marzipan. Ah, the indomitable Marzipan. Well, that's Governor Marzipan to you. To everyone, obviously. Mars learns from her flirtation with capitalism and, true to her word, abandons her plan to turn Kudos into a true currency. Does she, though? Because I feel like the previous text suggests otherwise. But I guess maybe, like, Kudos turns into a currency until the nanoprinters break down, and then once we make the changeover and I repair that one thing, maybe then Kudos gets abandoned. These two bits of text should be looking at each other a little bit more closely, though. I shouldn't have to be trying to thread them and make up a way myself for them to work together. Steering the colony under gardenership requires a calm hand. Mars initially chafes at the idea that she can't build the beautiful metropolis of her dreams. However, with much of the external pressures taken off of the colony, Vertumna already is a paradise. Few people need to labor for subsistence anymore, so more can devote themselves to the arts. And just as Mars had hoped, peace brings an unprecedented time of cultural growth and, eventually, the luxury she craved, just a little different than she imagined. As for her love life, Mars is never really one to settle down for the long term. You date on and off for a few years, never exclusively. She enjoys having you on her arm and parading you around at colony functions, and always showers you with presents and attention behind closed doors. You have a good thing, but eventually you fall out of the habit of sleeping together and drift apart as your lives change. She enjoys a string of lovers: Tangent, Utopia, Rex again, a number of people from the heliopause. Everyone wants her, nobody can cage her. She does eventually have one child, just for the novelty. She enjoys being the center of attention while carrying a surrogate pregnancy, but enjoys being the child's wealthy, generous Auntie Marzipan even more. That's probably a good fit for her temperament, that makes sense. Mars remains surrounded by as much luxury as one could expect on an exoplanet, and though she complains about wanting more, she never seems anything less than happy about her life. I think, honestly, that's about as good an outcome as we could possibly have hoped for. But what about Rex? Your lover, Rex, mixed feelings, grows from good boy, mixed feelings, to good man. Alright, man, I like focus on man. More man, less dog makes me a little more comfortable. He continues to work hard on the bar, turning it into the place he always dreamed, where people can come and unwind from a long day, enjoy some libations, dance their butts off, and maybe even find love. He gets a reputation for being a matchmaker. In a small colony, there aren't a lot of romantic options, but Rex has an eye for figuring out who would be a good match together. Giving Rex a kiss for luck becomes a tradition among those looking for love. And if some people find something a little more temporary than love with Rex, well, that's their business. You continue to date both Mars and Rex, at least until things end naturally with Mars. You know, it's really cool that it's this responsive. That it's like this, it's aware that this is a thing you might have done. Rex has a lot of love to spread around, and so do you. Yeah, that does seem to be the way we were playing it. Together, you embark on the adventure of dating other people, sometimes at the same time. There's jealousy and hurt feelings sometimes, but your relationship only gets better and better with every heartfelt conversation, not to mention every steamy shared affair. Rex builds you a custom house so you both have your own living quarters. It's all very salacious, and Rex enjoys being the talk of the colony. Rex is very into the idea of children, and contributes to a few on his own before you're ready to have some with him. Between your kids and the ones that visit from time to time, your swingin' bachelor pad becomes a family home filled with love. That's really sweet, actually. I was pretty back and forth on the idea of kids for this version of this character, but especially if we stay with Rex in the long term, I think it makes a lot of sense that the idea would eventually grow on us. Because we weren't really, I wasn't opposed to it in the first place. Yeah. Also, I really love this depiction of a poly relationship, like a long-term poly relationship, where you have like your anchor partner, your primary partner, whatever terminology you want to use. But there's still stuff going on. Honestly, it feels a lot like the relationship that I'm in right now, which I would say is very rad. It's not for everybody, but gosh, it has turned out to be so good for me. Anyway. Rex always seems abundantly happy with his lot in life. Like crashing on Vertumna was the best thing that ever happened to him. Given how his life was on the heliopause, that's probably true. It's remarkable that the heliopause could have made someone like him, but you're glad it did. He slows down a little as time goes on, mellowing out and becoming more quiet in his self-confidence. He confides in you that his dog genes will probably mean that his life will be a little shorter than the average human's, but that he wouldn't trade any minute of it. But what about Symbiosis, the bridge between two peoples? I feel like I'm the bridge between two peoples. Thank you. But I get what you're saying. He's the other half of the bridge. Undying, never aging, ever-patient Sim remains one of your closest confidants. For a few years, it's common to see gardeners move around the colony in various forms, teaching the humans about the history of Vertumna and how to live in harmony with the land. Sim is one of them, of course, and the only one who doesn't treat you like some kind of curiosity in a zoo. After a few years, the other gardeners leave humanity to figure things out on their own. Sim stays on to act as an emissary and moves into the colony to live with you full time. You, specifically, not live with humans, yeah, okay. Rex builds an addition to the little house, you know. You would think that living with your alien boyfriend would be weird, but you've already shared everything of yourselves by interfacing through the array. The intimacy of accidentally using the same toothbrush is nothing when you've lived inside of his memories of being a mush tree. I wonder, that's probably a pretty complicated thing to negotiate, like to work through within the poly relationship, though. I'm not going to go on a whole thing about being poly or try to evangelize or anything, but it is emotionally it can be pretty complicated, and it's definitely the case that like you have to get used to the fact that there are things your partner has with other people that they don't have with you. There are parts of it that you're just not in, and you have to be okay. You have to get comfortable with being on the outside of stuff. And this feels like it would be tricky for the person who's in Rex's position. I mean, knowing that we've like literally been inside each other's minds. That said, I think of all the people who could be in Rex's position here, Rex is probably the most suited, because I can imagine him getting over it. I can imagine him accepting that. Sim is enthralled with the idea of children. You move into a gardener-like abode where Sim can form a connection to the array, glowing pool and all. There's definitely a lot of places where the text is not looking at the other text here. Sim is enthralled with the idea of children. Smaller, even less predictable humans. What's not to love? Though you never raise any of your own, he is beloved by the colony's youngest generation. Here, the "your" is referring to the couple. We never reproduce as a couple, I'm assuming, given the other text. Your union is recognized by the colony, even if few people understand it. You skip the usual party, the commitment ceremony, the vows, the feasting, and hold a more intimate gathering instead. Just you, him, and the thousands of minds that touch yours with curiosity as you lie in Sim's interfacing vat and introduce your consciousness to the array. Though you've already done this with Sim, meeting your extended family deepens the bond you have with him. You understand how strange his position is as one of the few independent minds of the array. You think Sim enjoys living in the colony, but he never quite fits in. He reincarnates a few times into forms that look more human, but he also once famously returns to the colony as a swarm of hecklebees, just to prove a point about how the gardener consciousness transcends form. It's a bit unnerving, but that's Sim for you. It's interesting for him to return as a swarm of creatures. That definitely suggests some things about consciousness. Alright, other people. Tange. Chief Engineer Tangent has a nice ring to it. It always seemed like Tangent's life was laid out for her. Work hard, discover amazing things, and eventually replace Instance as Chief Engineer. However, after only a year on the council, Tangent surprises everyone by stepping down. Not everyone. She says that she simply doesn't have time to run engineering and do her research, but you know the truth. She doesn't want to be used like Instance was. Her brush with genocide made her realize she needed to think more about the repercussions of her actions. So this is a thing that's unavoidable. There's no way to prevent Lum from being the governor at the time when that event occurs. So there's no version of Tangent that doesn't have to deal with this stress. That is a little bit of a shame. Instead, she contents herself with being a regular researcher, quietly pushing the boundaries of medical science and having a hand in every major discovery. This is largely the same text as last time. She trains new researchers, etc. It's an unremarkable life for someone as impossibly promising as Tangent, but she seems happy. She smiles more often and has more time to spend with you, and gets more than enough sleep every night. I will say, as a person who was described as promising a lot as a kid, a person who had all this potential, and let me tell you, I very often heard that phrase in conjunction with the idea, so why are you wasting it? But that kind of stress from adults fucking sucks ass, and it is nice to... I cannot imagine putting myself in a position like chief engineer. like a position on top of things with that kind of responsibility, given all those stressors, like that would feel, I think, a little bit like giving in, like letting all these other people drive for me, for my life. So I fully get where she's coming from here. It's actually a lot, weirdly, a lot in common with me and Tange. Her love life remains fairly private, though she's not as frigid as she's always claimed. You hear from the colony gossips that she carries on with a string of casual relationships, mostly with other scientists, mostly women, and of course, there is that thing with Mars that we know about. She donates genetic material to a number of children, but doesn't choose to raise any of her own. She's quite picky about their genetic enhancements, obsessing over any markers of anxiety or depression that run in her family. But ultimately, her children grow up healthy and in loving families far removed from Tange's own childhood. It's a bittersweet reminder for her. I feel extremely bad for Tange and Dis's mom. We were given her name and I don't remember it, but her story of just being slowly weighed down in this situation where she felt she had no choice but to try to keep serving everybody else, like she felt that was the best thing for the colony until it eventually took her, is really grim. It's really, really sad. Tangent lives and dies in the shadow of what she almost caused to happen on Vertumna. Knowing that she almost killed every living thing on the planet weighs heavily on her for the rest of her days. Unfortunately, even with genetic alteration, the human body was not made to withstand long periods without sleep, and Tangent's willful negligence in taking care of herself certainly doesn't help. She develops a heart condition in her early 60s that outpaces the healing capacity of the medbeds, and it eventually takes her life. Which we knew was going to happen. Your friend Dis keeps on exploring. Utopia keeps him on as second surveyor, recognizing that a man like Dis needs to feel useful or he's prone to wander. Over time, he straightens up his act and even learns to play nice with authority, though he and Utopia together certainly keep the council guessing. Dis is instrumental in the colony's transition to Gardener authority. Together, the two of you provide an example of fearless submission to the forces of nature. Dis actually talks to people about everything he's seen in the wild, the incredible and the horrifying, and champions the idea of being a part of it, not in control of it. The idea that peace with nature involves cooperation and compromise, not subjugation, is unpopular. But being unpopular has never stopped Dis before. It's interesting that the way they use the language here, like the transition to Gardener authority, which is what we are accepting, right? If we're being like bald-faced about it, is a way to put this that is definitely going to raise people's hackles. And for, diplomatic purposes, when Mars talks about it, I'm sure she talks about a partnership. She talks about the thing that we are doing together with these other beings. But in this case, not that all partnerships are this way, but in this case at least, we are submitting to Gardener authority instead of just like blowing their shit up. And I do think that that's a good thing for us and the world, but there are a lot of humans that for whom this would be a long-term problem. And the word submission, deeply terrifying to some people. It's almost not a surprise when Dis comes to you one day to talk to you about Sim. Specifically, that he's in love with him too. It's hard for him to explain the depth and intimacy of their relationship. That when Dis is with Sim, he feels a sense of completion, of love, that he's never felt among humans. Sim shows him things, teaches him things, not just about himself, but about all life, and not just in the present, but across all of time. Buddy, I might understand better than you know, actually. You've never seen Dis talk about anything with such passion. Sim's alien patience and imperviousness to jealousy make the solution obvious. You'll both be in love with him, and he'll love both of you. It's awkward at first, as all new relationships are, but you make it work. Dis continues his work as an ambassador for gardenership for many decades, until one day he announces that he's leaving. In recognition of his lifetime of service to the planet, the Overseer has extended an offer to make Dis a gardener. He's made a lot of friends since his loner years, and his ascendance to gardenerhood is celebrated across the colony, even by Tangent, having long reconciled their differences. That's I'm really happy that this happened, and to be perfectly honest with you, I'm pretty happy that we didn't have a direct hand in it. Because it's not, not everything is. This is part of the problem. Part of the problem I have with these games, with visual novels as a genre. I don't want to go on a whole rant here either, but there definitely is like a tendency to make you not just the protagonist of the story, but the protagonist of everyone's story, which I think doesn't necessarily feed the best impulses in the audience. Uh, but I think this is really nice that we got to sort of see them. I think that last scene in the bar was sort of like them trying to work together, and there's really nothing we could do except offer our support to them individually, and then they work things out, and it has nothing to do with us because it's not about us, it's a thing about them. I actually really like that. For years afterward, people report seeing strangely docile animals approach the colony, watch for a few hours, and then slip away into the forest. It's a comfort knowing Dis will always be out there somewhere. That actually seems like a really good ending for him. Your friend Tammy blossoms into a fine mother. Not just to her, a fine mother. Fine like very good, not fine like, she's okay. Not just to her own children, but to every person in the colony who needs a mother's love. Tammy's true calling is motherhood. She spends her young adulthood just like Aunt Anne did, acting as a surrogate for other families while also raising her own children, making a peaceful and happy life for herself in the creche among the colony's children. She even carries a few children for Rex, who is delighted to have pups of his own running around the creche. Her life is too busy for dating, but eventually she does find love. She becomes close with a couple after bearing a few children for them, and the colony gossips churn that the last one was done the organic way. Tammy and her paramours don't seem to mind one bit, though she gushes to you in private that she's the happiest she's ever been. I really thought she was going to end up with Cal. I wonder if that's a thing that you have some effect on. Quite without meaning to, Tammy becomes an advocate for the communal raising of children, just as you yourselves were raised. The more militant Helios resist, not wanting to associate with the Stratos' hippie nonsense. But as the colony grows, so too does her influence over the next generation. And this is this dovetails really well with the way we've chosen to live our lives and the way Rex has chosen to live his life. This is quite harmonious. I wonder if there are different endings for these characters that sort of grind against each other's edges a little bit more. Though Aunt Anne stays on as chief steward well into her 90s, Tammy takes over the new creche and becomes something of a mythical figure in the colony, Auntie Tammy in her own right. There's no child born who doesn't know the safety and warmth of Tammy's arms. I really like this idea of, like, it literally taking a village. The communal child raising is really, maybe as a person who had a very difficult relationship with both of her parents, is particularly compelling. But also I really like the idea of the parent-child relationship not being one of like complete authority and dominance and ownership, because I'm a queer person. I'm in community with a lot of queer people, and while I personally do not have a parents being horrible to me because of my queerness nightmare story, I know so many people who do, and I know so many people whose lives were like really significantly destroyed by the fact that their parents were allowed to basically get away with whatever because of the way we conceptualize the parent-child relationship in our culture. Anyway, Nomi never really figures out what they want to be. They dabble in many things and continue to do odd jobs, but never feel pinned down to any one thing. It works out okay for them, because life is easy in the colony now that everyone is at peace. Nomi's not really interested in dating the same way everyone else is. It takes them a long time to warm up to the idea of getting physical with someone, and they need to love and feel comfortable with them first. Yeah, so it feels like maybe Nomi's a little bit more Demi than Ace, which is what I first thought might be happening. You're their friend and confidant as they begin to explore the world of dating, always ready to doodle dreamily on someone's picture or come running with a box of tissues. You wouldn't say they're unlucky in love, just that love seems slow to find them, and Nomi isn't determined to go hunting for it. They'll always have you, though. Between you and Rex, Nomi's full up on best friendship, and they say that's all they really need in life. They never lose their fascination with vertumnant animals. One of their hyperfixations leads them to volunteer as a rancher, where they're working one fateful day when the explorers bring in a unisaur. Despite the beast's aggression and capricious nature, something between them just clicks. Nomi becomes the only person who can calm down the fearsome creature, to the point where it will follow along behind them, as gentle as a float cow. Nomi's magical unicorn friend is something of a celebrity among the colony. They're a big hit at princess-themed birthday parties. And we kind of have the same deal going on. That's fun. It's hard to believe someone like Nomi grew up on the heliopause. They don't just march to the beat of their own drum. They're their own brass band and acrobat troupe and free candy buffet, all in one person. They're your friend, though, through thick and thin. I'm a little sad that in this ending it doesn't seem like they really become an artist of any kind. I feel like the colony has really lost our artistic partnership. That was kind of the way I was hoping for things to go. What about Cal? What happens with recalcitrance here? Your friend Cal grew up, but he never lost his boyish charm. Thanks to the gardeners enticing nearby plants to grow heavy with fruit and nuts for the colony, Cal gets to do what he loves, getting dirty and growing things for fun. He never has to deal with the burden of providing for the colony as your parents did. The planet provides everything you need. He has a string of intense romantic relationships, and eventually settles down with one of the gardeners who grew up on the heliopause, Gardener Small G, who grew up on the heliopause before transferring to geoponics. She's as dependable and friendly as he is, though as you get to know her on your weekly family dinners, you're often reminded of Anemone by the way she teases him. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Together, they have a tiny little sum of children, and that's the only tidy thing about them. Their children grow up digging in the dirt, eating bugs, nearly getting mauled by farm equipment, and having a great time being kids. Cal dotes on every one of them. I wonder if there's a version of the story where Cal and Anemone's thing mends enough for them to be like potentially interested in each other. Because like it's the formation of the rift is not avoidable, right? It comes out of her trauma about Calm, and I feel like we've done everything we could to save Kombucha. I don't know. Maybe there is a way to save him. Cal himself becomes an example for other colonists, becoming somewhat of a spiritual leader for those who accept their role under the gardeners, Big G, but also Small G in this case. He lives a long and happy life, ages gracefully, and outlives you. Your parents get to see their pioneer dreams come true. With the forests bursting with food, they're both able to lay down the burden of feeding the entire colony. They still work in geoponics, but recreationally. Your dad cultivating dizzyweed and hops, your mom working on her personal garden of earth plants. Now that the gardeners are keeping an eye on the colony too, her earth plants flourish without threatening to take over the local flora. They live long, happy lives, and you eventually return them both to the soil they loved so much. They'll always be with you, in the ground you walk on, in the trees that give you shade, and in the cycle of life that sustains you. Your Hawkeye is a good companion, but you're no replacement for its own species. I forgot that I had named it Frogmouse in all caps. That's a very good name for a Hawkeye. Yep. When a herd of Hawkeye roam close enough to the colony, you release it back into the wild, but then there's a whole litter of Hawkeye kittens outside your door, and Frogmouse proudly showing off their family. I love you, Frogmouse. You're so adorable. Your Vriki grows from the size of a small dog to the size of a bear. Yeah, we saw this. I don't imagine this is going to be any different. You look everywhere in the colony for it, but your answer comes from outside the wall, a new Vriki nursery tree. Soon the colony is host to many curious Vriki pups who call your Squidcap 2 home. But what about your Unisaur? Well, it will seemingly live forever, just as cantankerous as she's always been. Face Ripper is bored in the colony, though, and ultimately, even though you've made great strides in taming her, you'll never domesticate her or her species. You decide it's best to release her into the wild. She deigns to give you a regal nuzzle before sprinting off into the swamps where you found her. And in my later years, the days turn to months, eventually becoming years, and then decades. And before you know it, you're old. Living under the gardeners, lovingly tended like any other species in their garden, is like a paradise. The trees are heavy with fruit, the weather is mild, and the colony is unbothered by the larger xenofauna that once menaced it. You even see faceless ones sometimes, sitting in clearings like inert sentinels, their broad, mossy bodies home to clusters of small animals. That's interesting. I had kind of thought that the faceless were not a real type of creature here, but that they were something that was being bred exclusively for the purpose of using them as weapons against the colony. And I guess I had made that assumption based on the way that, like, I believe there's text that describes how the ones inside the colony, after they're killed and, like, opened up by the explosives, it doesn't seem like their organs make sense, like they couldn't live in the long term. But maybe that's just those ones were being quick grown, like the one that Vase and I interrupted. But there is also an actual native species they are based on. Over the years, a few dissenting groups refuse to believe that the entire planet is off limits to humans. In the spirit of human expansion, they break off from the colony in search of somewhere outside of Gardener influence. Some return, chastised, but others never do. Pruned, just like any invasive weed. The surveyors work exhaustively to map the boundaries of the human territory, and the scientists and engineers work on countless simulations to test its carrying capacity. Within a few years, you have concrete numbers about how many humans can live comfortably while still maintaining equilibrium with the planet. Mother Vertumna is generous, and humanity flourishes. There's more than enough space to live, and for future generations to enjoy as well. You do so well, in fact, that a Gardener emissary comes to you with an offer. A second human territory. It's a show of trust, but also a chance to prove your worth by helping keep down the population of a stubborn but delicious invasive mollusk. They've prepared a proto-colony and take 100 humans to begin their new lives as a seaside community. You're sad to see them go, but it's a great sign for the future of humanity on Vertumna. And I mean, I'm sure it's not like it's not like they're disappearing forever. I'm sure there is some way for us to remain in contact. You know, we still have, like, some functional technology and whatever. Vertumna is your home now, and you've made it a good one. You die at a ripe old age, surrounded by loved ones. In the moment of your death, as your brain cells fizzle out one by one and shut down forever, just fucking absolutely terrifying wording. A vision swims in your mind's eye. Is that a person? They seem so familiar. You feel like you know them so well. Oh, it's you, right. That bitch again. Only ancient. Her arms are covered with so many data bands, so many lifetimes of knowledge. The ancient you speaks without moving her mouth, not in words, but in something like pictures. Still, you understand. She greets you with a love you can feel suffuse through your soul. You did well, she says. It's not easy to make someone put aside their ego and surrender to a greater power. Humans have tried before, and it hasn't always been pretty. Her hand rests on your shoulder. I hope you can manage to do it again, because you're not done yet. Wait, what? I feel like I'm pretty done. I lived my best life. I feel like I really accomplished all of our goals this time. I can tell from the weight of your soul, she says sadly, that many of your friends and family died before their time. Well, okay, like, what is the definition of their time, though? Because I might argue it's when they died. People who might not have, perhaps, if you'd made different choices. We can probably save Tony. Maybe we can save Kombucha. She pats your shoulder consolingly. It's natural, in grief, to wish you could have done something different, to have saved someone. But we're special, aren't we? we really can save them. We have a chance to take another path, to change the way our life turned out. She reaches out a hand. Come with me. And so we do. So what? Tonin, kombucha. I didn't save Uticott that time. Did I? I don't think so. So we could have saved Uticott. I wonder, is there another... Oh, gosh. Okay, so hold on a second. I'm going to press the endings gallery button. I'm going to make something clear here. We're not doing this. I am not playing the game to this extent. I don't know. I might. I'm not doing video of me playing the game to this extent of actually getting all... What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 29 endings. Yeah, that's not happening. I'm not getting all 29 endings. We're going to stop the series here. This is the last episode. But I am curious, like, what the future you seems to be leading you toward certain kinds of accomplishment within the space. And I do think that's really interesting. And like I said, I may in fact go and see a little bit more myself, but I do not think that, I think this is enough of the game on the channel. I've really, really enjoyed my time with this. I'm super glad people recommended it. I ended up liking it way more than I thought I was going to. Not much for visual novels, as you might have been able to tell by some of my commentary during the thing. But this game is rad. This game is very, very, very good. So yeah, we still haven't gotten Nomi on the main title screen, and of course Vase. Is there a version of me that could be friendly with Vase? I don't know. Like, he abuses Nem. He's horrible. He's a net negative for the colony. No, I honestly don't think there is. Yeah, there's lots of other stuff. Come between them. All that clicking on that does is make the text disappear. That's weird. Okay. How many cards have we seen? There's still like equipment that's missing, which is interesting. Kind of a lot of equipment, actually. If we assume that all of the cards between Animal Book and Hop Eye 3 are equipment, then there's a lot of equipment that we didn't see. That's really interesting. Oh no, okay, all the way down to here, so that's another entire row. And yeah, still a lot of stuff. There's still so many experiences we didn't have. I mean, there is for sure like a version of this where you lean into the military stuff and probably do become friends with Vase. And like, obviously we haven't seen any of that track. You could also lean really hard into the science stuff. Like, we didn't spend any time doing robotics or... Yeah, gosh, there's a lot of game. This thing is fucking enormous. We're at like a little over half the illustrations. Yeesh. Okay, yeah, there's a ton of game here. There's so much game. Go buy it yourself. Play it. It's really good. It's really good, and it's very responsive. It's remarkably well thought out and responsive to the choices you might make. Anyway, that's going to be it for us for now and for I Was a Teenage Exocolonist on the channel, however. When you come back next time, we'll be getting into something new. I think I know what it is, but I'm not going to spoil it because I'm a little afraid of doing the thing I'm thinking, and I might change my mind out of fear. So come back next time so you can find out what it is, and we'll see you then.